What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Brutal Planet Comics. I'm your host, Dre the Brute Daniels, and welcome to an episode of the Indie Corner, where I sit down with everybody from the independence community, writers, artists, directors, producers. Doesn't matter if you're in the game. I want to talk to you. So we got ourselves a wonderful guest. I can't wait to get into his amazing work. He is the founder of Home Brewed Comics and is the head writer of C.R.I.T. Give it up, everybody, for Christopher Michael.
That's an introduction. Thank you.
What is going on, my friend? How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you.
Good. Well, first of all, before we even jump into your tremendous journey, I would like to wholeheartedly, English is hard, wholeheartedly thank you for making the time to come on my show today.
Oh, of course. I just appreciate you having me.
Oh, no, the pleasure is all mine. So before we jump into all your fantastic work, because I cannot wait for you to share how you came up with these great ideas, let's get to know you a little bit. Who you are, where you're from, how did we get here?
Well, my name's Chris. I'm from North Carolina. I actually have my home shirt on.
Yeah.
Originally from Connecticut. I transplanted here in 2004. I actually moved here because I wanted to get signed to a record label. I was in a metal band.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, we actually did. We moved down here, a buddy of mine and I. We came down here randomly. We'd been playing music in the Connecticut scene for a long, long time. And I think it was Universal gave us an offer.
Wow.
And then it wound up breaking my band up because some of us wanted the contract and then some of us were like, we don't want to be with these guys for this long.
Wow.
And so we stopped doing that. And then the singer and I, we just wanted to we wanted to move. I had been living on my own for a long time. And we just wanted like a different scene. And we knew some promoters and some managers. And so they said, check out North Carolina. It's a good metal scene. It's up and coming. Like bands like Atreyu were getting signed out of here. So we're like, all right, cool. We'll go down there and check it out. And so I gave it a year. And I said, if we don't get signed in a year, we'll come back. I turned 21 the second week I was here. So it's not like we were too old not to, bounce back from that. And we just worked our tails off. And the New Year's that year, we signed a deal. And that we signed with Tragic Hero Records, who had a band called Alisana on it. And they've got a lot more. They've grown as a company, but they signed a distribution deal with Sony. So they were like a subsidiary of Sony. So we had all the big name, promotions and stuff. And we got to be on Warped Tour. We got to do all that fun stuff. And then after 3 years of that, almost 4 years, I had some changes in my life. And I was like, all right, well, I've done this. Check that box off. And then I went back to school and just kind of, live a normal life for a few years.
Wow.
And then, I could tell you a story. I've hitchhiked the coast of Australia. I've traveled the country. Right? A buddy of mine had flight passes, so I would just like fly everywhere whenever I wanted to. I love to travel. It's like
that's the baller's life, Chris.
I wish. It was balling on a budget, I'll tell you that.
But that's really cool. Look, I used to have dreams and aspirations of playing the band. I used to play rhythm guitar years ago. I was okay. I did not take it as seriously as I should have. I still got it over. It's literally right here in the corner. It's crazy.
All my stuff is behind me.
Yeah.
that rack of equipment that I have just still there.
Oh my goodness! So
on the wall in front of me are all my guitars hanging on.
Oh, that's awesome, bro. So I'm just about to ask you what position you played on the band. Were you rhythm, lead? How that? So,
in one album I did just about everything, and then the second album we got a guy that was much better than me, so I went rhythm. I'm the type of person where if you're better, I have no qualms, stepping back. I have no ego. He is a phenomenal guitarist. And so I was like, well, hey, you can make the music better. I'll play some fun, cool stuff in the back. That's cool by me. I'll just write the stuff and then you can play over top of it.
Nice.
And funny thing is, when I first started my first band, the band prior to that, the one that got the first record deal, offer, I didn't even know how to play. I showed up to band practice with a guitar, and I pretended like I knew what I was doing, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you can do this. You're fine." And then the first full band practice, after we got the whole band together, the guitarist looked at me and said, "You don't know what you're doing, do you?" I was like, "No, but I can pretend like I can." And so by that point, him and I had hung out a few times, and we just really got along well. And so we spent just every night in the studio practicing and teaching me stuff. I picked up pretty quick, and that's how I learned how to play, was just every night, hours upon hours of just playing and playing and playing. And I didn't learn anybody else's stuff. He would write, and I would learn what he was playing, and then he would play over top of me, and we would just go back and forth. And his name was Chris too.
Oh, of course.
So, and arguably, I actually got in the band first, and then so I was Chris 1 and he was Chris 2.
Nice.
So on our amps we had 1 and 2.
Oh,
and
that's awesome. Okay, that is dope.
Thing 1, thing 2.
That's dope. So once you came to Carolina, and you did your whole music scene, and you went back to school, was there something in particular you're going back to school for, or you just were trying to do a reboot of your life?
I actually wanted to join the NCIS, and I wanted to go into like computer forensics, because I could go into like a laundry list of reasons, but I just felt like, hey, these are people that make a difference in people's lives. That's cool. My girlfriend at the time, her uncle was in the NCIS, so I had a connection, and we went to visit him on base one day, and his license plate, he would drive anywhere he wanted. And he told me, he goes, if a cop tries to pull my license plate, it comes up blank. My license, my driver's license comes up blank. I am just a ghost. And I was like, oh man, I want that.
That's dope. That's like being like a secret agent or something. That's pretty
right.
cool.
And I was like, well, that's cool. And he was like, well, we need people. And he's like, you just need a bachelor's degree. And so I went on a 7-year waiting list to join the NCIS, got my bachelor's degree, and finally, I actually did some shadowing with a guy up in Boone, North Carolina, and learned quite a bit. But by the time I got to the point where I was going to look at actually getting into it and starting that procedure, I was like, I make a lot more money at the job I have.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, that's it. By that point, I'm like, that 7, like it was like 7 years I waited.
Oh,
wow. And I was like, it just doesn't seem as like entertaining to me. Because I had to go through school, and then I had to shadow this. It was a whole process.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And
to be a secret agent, it takes time.
Yeah, I'm almost like 30 years old by that point. I was like 30 something. I think I just turned 30 when they started asking me if I wanted to pursue it, and I was like, I'm good. And so I just didn't do it. I've been in sales for almost 20 years now.
Okay.
And,
well, that's cool. That's a heck of a journey, brother. That's a heck of a journey. So, all right. So we went from straight up metal band to NCIS to sales. So how did we go from that into the comic industry? How did this come about?
That was random. So in 2019, I had been bouncing around jobs for a couple of years, and the job I had wanted me to move to Texas for like a year. But I also have a wife and kid, and they couldn't come with me. So I was like, I can't do that, because I would come home once every 3 months for like a few days.
Oh.
And I was like, my kid's 8 years old, and I can't do that.
Yeah.
That's an important time period in her life.
Absolutely.
I said, I can't do that, and I can't do that to my wife,
Yeah.
And so they were like, well, you do that, or we have to let you go. And so I said, well, then you let me go, because, I'm not, the money's great, but time is more important than money.
Yeah.
And so, I came home, and I'm jobless. My wife was like, hey, we have money in savings, take some time, do whatever you want, and she was like, just take a month and enjoy yourself. Because I've been working since I was 12. And like, even when I was in the band, we would come home on tour, and I would have a job.
Yeah.
And I've always had 1, 2, 3 jobs at a time. And she just said, take a break, enjoy yourself. So I started playing Spider-Man on PS4. A woman tells a man, do whatever you want to do. What's he going to do? He's gonna
You
play
made a
video games,
terrible
right?
error, ma'am.
Yep.
All day. You done
And
messed
so
up.
I'm playing Spider-Man, and I'm sitting there with my. I had kind of like gotten to the end of the game, and it dawned on me that my Spider-Man was probably different than everybody else's Spider-Man, because that game had so many customizable options that I was like, huh, if I really wanted to, I could like create a character like this, a Spider-Man like that, a tank build. Like you can just do different builds in Spider-Man. And it got me thinking about Dungeons and Dragons, because your Spider-Man starts off with just very few powers, and you kind of grow over time and you branch off into different trees. And it was just an idea. So I called one of my friends, and like 10 years prior, me and my group of friends always played D&D. Like 2 years straight, we kept the same campaign going. And then we kind of like moved, one of us moved 2 hours away, and life happened.
Of course.
Nobody got into an argument or anything, just life happened. And so then when I started thinking about it, I was like, well, let me see if I can get the guys back together. That'd be fun.
Getting the band back together.
Yeah, I was kind of depressed, to be real. Like, this is the first time in my life I'd been unemployed. And as a father, a husband, it was like that moment where I'm like, I'm not providing. And I just like needed something to be happy about.
Yeah.
And to like put all my energy into. And so I was in the gym one night, and I just said, screw it, I'm going to call everybody. So I call Brad, who in the book, he's Caliber. Call him first, because I talk to him almost every day anyway. Best friends. He was, a groomsman at my wedding. Like, that's how close we are.
Oh, okay.
So I pick up the phone and I said, hey, I have this idea. What do you think? And he's like, I'm down. Yeah. If you can get the other guys in, cool. He's like, well, we haven't played in like 10 years, so I don't know what they're gonna say. He's like, I haven't seen Terrell in like 10 years. So then I called Obi, and I'm like, hey man, you want to play? And he goes, yeah, we can do that like once a month, because we all have families and kids and stuff.
Yeah,
like once a month, we get together on Sunday, we order some pizza, and we hang out.
That's not gonna be a nice time.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. And then Terrell was my last call. And, Terrell him and I hadn't even really talked in like 10 years. And we were roommates for like 2 years. So we were really close friends for quite a while. And it was the most random call. I'm like, hey, dude, so I want to do superhero D&D. It's something we always talked about, and I figured out how to make this work. What do you think? And he's like, one day a month? I'm like, yeah, one day a month. That's all it is. One Sunday a month. Come hang out, have fun, and we'll just, pick up where we left off. It'll be a good time. Yeah, sure, I can do that. So I got my 3 core players back together, and then Obi had some scheduling stuff, and I realized like it would be better with a 4th. And I've been playing a campaign with a friend of mine. I said, hey, why don't you come play this one? It's fun. And so he filled in for a game. I think, no, Brad was in the police academy.
Okay.
So he came in to like just play a game or two with us, and wound up that was our core team then. We had all 4 of them. And every month, one Sunday a month, we get together, we're playing. And that was all 2019. And then I got a job.
Yeah, I'll do it.
I was really bored at my job. And I had this tablet that I could draw on.
Oh.
And so I was like, I'll just start drawing the campaign. Like, I start drawing some of it out. And I didn't know what I was doing at all.
Wow.
I had no clue. It was one of those fake it till you make it situations again.
Yeah.
I was like,
just,
cool,
just like when you were playing guitar. Same
right,
bit.
just like I'm playing guitar. And so my wife is a phenomenal artist. All right. And I talk about this story quite a bit because my wife is just absolutely amazing. And her mother is an art teacher. So,
wow.
And at that point in time, we were living in my mother-in-law's house.
Okay.
So I had access to 2, phenomenal artists. And I do this like 18-page book. I finish it up, and I, make a PDF of it. And I was like, oh, I'm really proud of it. And I'm thinking I'm hot shit, right? And I go to my wife one night, we're watching TV, and I hand her the tablet. And I was like, tell me what you think. And so she goes through the whole thing, and she hands me the tablet back. We're watching TV. Doesn't even make eye contact with me. Just goes back to watching TV, and she's like, it's okay. And the little person inside of me that was so excited to get that feedback was just crushed. Right? And in my head, I'm like, okay, I got two options. I can give up on the idea of the comic and we can just play D&D and have fun. Or tomorrow, I'm going to start another issue and it's going to be better than this one. And so she was like, if you want, you can just show it to me and I'll help you. And so I start sketching, and as I'm drawing, I'm starting a new book.
So let me pause you for a hot second there, Chris. So was the problem the art, in her opinion?
Oh yeah, the art was bad.
Okay.
I am not afraid to say that. In fact, if you pick up Crit, and I'll tell you my character in the book real quick. So everyone asks me, you have all the characters from my game, and they're my friends.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a character. And I tell people, my character is the actual art. You get to see them level up in the book.
Oh.
My art levels up book to book to book.
I see. So you don't have a self-insert here.
I have a few, and eventually they made me put a self-insert character because they just wanted. I'm the short guy that shows up in a tuxedo, and I think I'm all cool, and then they just start ragging on me and bringing me down.
I see. You're a one-off character. Okay.
He shows up a few times.
Yeah. Okay.
He's like the Men in Black kind of guy that comes in and cleans up the mess and then leaves. But his name's Seven. I didn't really want a name. I just wanted like a number.
Oh my God.
And I was like, I don't want to have my name Chris in there. I just want I want to be this ominous character that shows up. You're gonna know it's me, a short little Italian guy in a tuxedo, because I used to wear suits for work all the time.
Okay.
And so I was like, that's gonna be me. And I think in the comic book, my character may even be working on a comic book because he's a big fan of that kind of, But so I start on what is now actually issue 1, and as I'm going through, I'm getting feedback from her on everything I do. And I would draw something, she'd come in and erase it and sketch something else. She's like, the leg needs to be here, the arm needs to be here.
Ooh.
And she's like, do you know how to draw men? I was like, what do you mean? And she goes, you have no crotches on any of your characters. And I was like,
it's smooth as butter.
Yeah, I was like, a little awkward. So she comes in, and I tell this all the time. She showed me how to draw, a crotch. And so by the end of book 1, I was much more confident in my artwork.
Nice.
So even throughout book 1, you'll see an upgrade in the art as it goes. Book 2 came around, and you see a lot more of my style coming in. And as we're doing this, I asked the guys about it. I'd already released book 1 on Kickstarter, and because somebody just said, hey, go to Kickstarter. Like everything else in my life, I had no idea what I was doing when I got there. And I said, okay, so I'll make a page. I make the page, I do some work on it. I have my degree is in visual communication.
Ooh,
so
very good.
Graphic design.
Oh, nice.
And so it's pretty, it's good. And I launched the thing. Well, what was told to me was you just throw it on Kickstarter and people throw money at it. I have no clue how any of this works. And I get right at like 35, 40 backers.
Okay.
With little to no advertisement whatsoever. I created an Instagram like a couple days before I even launched the Kickstarter. So I didn't even have a following, nothing. I didn't have anything. But I made some friends because I'm a social person.
Nice.
And through the band, I can talk to just about anybody. I just start talking and saying, hey, check out my Kickstarter, check this out. And I screwed up the goal because it was like $1,500 because that's what people said I should go.
That's for. Moderate. Yeah, moderate. Yeah.
I only needed $500 because I did the work and I just wanted to hire a colorist to do the coloring. And because what had happened was the colorist that I had kind of fell through. A buddy of mine, he had twins. And then we hit COVID.
Oh.
And so, the colorist thing just fell apart.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I'll pay somebody. I went on Facebook and I found a girl I wanted to pay. And I just wanted to be able to get her some money. So because I had asked for too much money, Kickstarter just failed. Right. And I'm bummed. I'm like, whatever, we'll figure it out. If I have to self-fund this thing, we'll just do it. And I'm on Facebook, and a buddy of mine is like, hey, I see that you're like doing comic books now. I'm like, yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's fun. It keeps me busy, and it's a good, creative outlet. And he goes, I've known you for a while. Everything you do, you stick to, you're a really dedicated person. How much do you need? And I was like, well, I need about $400 or $500 to get this thing done and printed, and then that's about it. He goes, okay. And on Facebook, on Messenger, apparently you can just send people money.
Yeah.
And this dude just sends me $500. I was like, what?
In the world?
And so that shows up in my inbox. He goes, it's been a few years since I'd seen him. He goes, yeah, I got in on, pot farms when they first started.
Oh, wow.
And now I have a private jet. I was like, okay,
I'll do it.
And so
that's
I
a tax write-off, Chris. That
was a tax write-off. Kickstarter, and I hit up everybody that backed the book. I said, I know you didn't pay for the book, and I'm not asking you for money, but I'm going to send you the book anyway as a thank you for believing in me when nobody knew who I was.
Nice.
And so 35 people got the book for free.
Nice.
I paid for shipping, everything, because he had given me the money to do so.
Yeah.
And I said, all I ask is that you post it on social media and follow my page, support me. So when book 2 came around, it funded in 24 hours.
Oh, wow.
Right. By that point, I had built a decent following on Instagram. I had like maybe 1,500, 2,000 followers. I launched, so book 1 I shipped July of 2020. And I launched the Kickstarter for book 2 in September of 2020. So between July and September, I had built up enough traction, and I also had COVID the day I launched it, so I was sick while I'm launching it, and I screwed up the launch again because it was supposed to launch at like noon, and Kickstarter didn't approve it, so I'm like cross-eyed looking at the thing. So I wound up launching like the next day by accident because I went in, I'm like, oh, I can launch, and I'm on the phone with a buddy of mine who's also he works in a book called The Convictor.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh man, I launched. Oh crap. And he's like, you're the king of like these cold launches. So we just get on Instagram and start promoting it.
Yeah.
And like I said, that first day we funded. And
that's excellent.
I only asked for 500 because the colorist only wanted, he was $500. And so book 2 was done. Book 2 we did. Excellent. I think 60 backers.
Okay.
Which, I was happy with.
Yeah.
Anybody.
Yeah, anybody. Anybody.
If you're going to read my book, I am so excited.
Yeah.
And I had tons of covers, we just going nuts on it. And so I was just like really stoked at that point. And we quadrupled the goal.
That's excellent.
So when book 3 came out, if you backed book 2, I was going to give you a copy of book 3 because I had so much extra money. I said, I'm not in this to make money, right?
Yeah. For the love of the game.
I ran to Indiegogo and I found all of my backers from book 2 that were going to get book 3 anyway. Wound up going to Indiegogo because I had another artist reached out to me and wanted to remake that really bad book that I had done. He was like, hey, while you work on book 3, I'll redo that book 0 for you. And I was like, thanks, because I had sent him my first tablet. He had been doing artwork on his phone, and he's a phenomenal artist.
Wow.
And I was like, hey, dude, you're in Australia. He wasn't able to buy something. And I said, hey, I'm not using this. I'll send it to you. So with his Kickstarter back from book 2, I just sent him the tablet. And we all chipped in. That's right. Me and a few other guys chipped in for the shipping because it was like $200 to ship it. And so shipped him my tablet. And he's like, as a thank you, I'll redo the book. So he redoes issue 0, and I'm working on book 3. And so I go to Indiegogo with 0, 1, 2, and 3. I got 4 books. And this is February of 2021. Now I go from one book that was okay to having 4 books now. And book 3 had 2 covers. So what I did for the book 2 backers, I'm like, you just get both covers.
Oh, nice.
I'm not gonna I'm gonna live up to that. I don't want you to feel like you're getting shorted.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And recently we put book 4 on, and that one did 130 backers. And then I also have if you can see back there, I have a stuffed C.R.I.T. That's my talking alcoholic cat in the book.
Oh, yes.
So we had him on there. That went over really well. And now I'm getting ready to launch book 5 on Kickstarter March 2nd.
Excellent.
And yeah, the support has been phenomenal. I think a lot of people like the idea that it's based off Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, and like when you were pitching it to me, the idea that you're getting all of your buddies together, you're playing D&D, and then pretty much making that adventure and all
Mhm.
those characters that you came up with and all that beautiful stuff that you and your buddies did. Oh, first of all, Chris, I've been in the comic game a long time. Okay, I have never in my life heard that before. I have
It's
never in my life said, "Hey, me and my buddies got together. We played D&D," and I said, "Hey, comic book." I've never in my life heard that before. But Crit sounds like a very, very unique experience, and I'm a sucker for unique experiences for sure. So I have to ask, you have a quite a cast of characters,
Mhm.
that's in your book and all that wonderful stuff. So are all those characters, were they from the D&D adventures that
Mhm.
you and your buddy had? Like, are all of them, like, the main characters? Are they self-insert, not self-inserts, but inserts from your buddies?
So, Caliber is my buddy Brad. Spectre is my buddy Austin. Boulder is Terrell. Obi is Reach, and Bones. He just came in book 4. He is my friend Kid, Ryan Kidd. The only arguably self-insert characters would be some of the NPCs. Like when you're reading, you see the CEO Shaw. He is one of my NPCs. Everybody says that I'm kind of like Richter, like he's a rugged old man.
Ah,
But he's actually
ah.
when I started playing him in the game, because I have to play everybody that's not them,
Okay.
and I base him off of a friend of mine that I used to work with, who he was an Army veteran, and he was like rough around the edges, but like a super nice guy.
Yeah.
And I always pictured Richter because he was always from day one with the character. He was going to be an Army veteran that, when he retired from the military, took on a security job with the biggest tech company in the world because it was offered to him. You know, like he had this opportunity of a lifetime to be the head of security for the company. Like Technetic in my world is bigger than Apple and Google.
Gotcha.
So, you know, he's the head of that security force, and now he like the way, and I'll give a little bit of the book away.
Okay.
In issue 0, you know, issue 0 is not your normal origin. It's just all of them coming to work, because when you play D&D, there's that first session. Well, what's the first session? It's usually a bar or adventurers like finding a reason to come together.
Of course.
Well, all these guys get job offers at Technetic. They show up on their first day. There's an attack on the building while they're there, and people die. There's explosions everywhere. And somehow, in the midst of all that, they gain superpowers. Nobody knows why. It's just this thing. Well, the CEO of the company, he's there. He kind of finds out because they're so big, they have their own medical staff on team.
Oh, wow.
And their medical staff is like, hey, there's something weird about these dudes. And so we don't go into it too much. I like to leave a lot of stuff up to imagination too.
Okay.
Like if you're a big fan of Star Wars, the original trilogy,
Indeed.
there's like, they mention the Clone Wars, and then for like 20 years we're like, what are the Clone Wars? Right?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of like empty space there for your mind to fill in the gaps. But in game, the guy figures out they have superpowers, and he's like, well, I'm a big CEO. I like to make money. I'll put superheroes out. That's my new product, right? I can protect the city with my heroes. And it takes place in New Orleans. Technetic, the company, had come in to kind of like help clean up after Katrina. And so now they're like, hey, we're going to help out the city, but we got to train these guys first, right? So they train them by sending them after like low-level crooks. But what happens is they come across like some pretty powerful people they didn't even realize existed. And those people are coming after Technetic. So now Crit's like, oh, we're like their superpowered security force. And what's funny is Richter goes from working with, very professional military types to these zany guys who just got superpowers.
Yes.
And how I pitched the game to the players was, all right, you are you, but you get superpowers.
Okay.
So act like yourself. Just act like yourself if you had gotten superpowers. What would you do? Very simple, very organic. It allows the role play to be very easy. And what we get in the book is just them having fun. And at the same time, they start to take their characters and their roles seriously. Some sooner than others. But really what we get to do is follow them just like you do in Dungeons and Dragons, right? In Dungeons and Dragons, you are a low-level adventurer, and as you level up, you gain notoriety, and your character kind of grows, right?
Exactly.
And I always ask them before they make some important decision, remember, your character has done a lot up to this point, so what would your character do? And sometimes they'll make a decision, and we're like, you probably really wouldn't do that. Let's think about what you would actually do, because, like a character died in the last game. Mind you, we're like 38 issues written now, I think.
Lord of mercy.
So there's a lot of crit to come. But somebody died, an important person died, and somebody made a wisecrack. And I'm like, your character probably wouldn't, because you had created a relationship, and he just wanted to make a wisecrack. And I'm like, so how does your character actually feel? He's like, actually, so if I put myself in those shoes, he probably would make a wisecrack because he wants to show the team that he's not upset. But inside, and he's like, so he talks to another character, and they're like, they kind of like hash that out, and he's like, nope, that's how they would want it, And so it's fun to really see my players now role play even better, because they know what they're gonna do. Someone's gonna read, okay, and that's the fun part. It's like, like we'll be playing, and one of them will go, man, that has to go in the book.
That's awesome.
Because they're 6-hour sessions. Not everything we do makes it to the book.
That's a long book.
Right.
That's a heck of a book there.
I got to consolidate this down to 20, 30 pages. And
each issue is 187 pages long. Oh, wait. No,
and I draw it all. I had originally wanted to really flesh out every piece of the campaign, and we realized there's a lot of stuff in there that just doesn't need to be there, right? Like, we don't need to see some of the mundane tasks that we do in D&D, like resting and these things. It's like I have the mentality of show, not tell.
Of course.
Okay.
Very good.
A lot of writers in that I've seen in the indie community like to tell a lot.
It's true.
And I like to just leave a lot of that to your imagination. You might have questions, and if you have questions, that's why I have Instagram. I put a lot of the additional content on my Instagram or on the website, because there is a lot of lore and there's a lot of depth. And so it's like, I want to make that stuff accessible, but I can't put everything into the book, or we'll lose some of the audience. And so I post some of the bios and some of the cool stuff onto my Instagram with like the art. I talk a lot. I usually do like a weekly show on my Instagram, and I'll talk about some of the stuff.
Oh, good.
But overall, what you're getting at the end of the day in those books is really all organic, and all happens at the table with the roll of the die.
That's awesome.
So
really cool. That's a very unique experience.
In book 1, we got an award for the biggest twist, because it's a superhero book, right?
Nice.
And I tell this people all the time, like I have like different communities. I do like different YouTube shows, and everyone talks about their books, and like horror books are big, and it's like, I have a superhero book. Okay. The most like saturated like topic you can have in comic books. I that's my genre. And I'm like, well, I'm going to stick out by having the zany guys, It's a D&D comic book about superheroes. It's not your typical, we're going to show up and beat everybody up. In the first book, they get their butts handed to them. Okay. They get knocked down. You think they're done. And I didn't know if we were going to do another book, so I was just going to leave them dead in the book and just let it end, kind of like a pilot for a TV show.
Yeah.
And people liked it, so I was like, "Well, cool. We have a cool ending now." And there's situations where they escape narrowly from danger. Some of them later on in the campaign, there's one that does die. He rolled terribly, dead. There's a couple that have come close a few times. Luckily in D&D you have death saves.
Yes.
And I'm glad we have Bones in the book, because Bones is a healer too.
Nice.
When he remembers that he can heal, which is even funnier.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because it'll come up in the book. It's like, can't you heal people? Oh yeah, I can do that.
That's right. I do that. Right.
I mean, but that's another D&D thing. It's like
That's
you forget what abilities you have.
Yeah.
And there's one character that he's so stubborn, he goes down quite a bit, and they have to heal him. And Reach is like, when you get into the book, the Reach is the tech guy, but he's also like your creepy uncle at the same time. One of his moves we named Uncle Bad Touch. It's the move where he gets to control a computer, and he has to touch the computer to be able to control it. So
I like that.
It's called Uncle Bad Touch.
That's nice.
And he makes the most awkward pieces of technology to use. I won't give any of it away.
Okay.
But it is
Okay.
very awkward, some of the names he comes up with, just because he wants you to say the name, and it's like
yes.
really, he's like, it's an acronym and this is what it means. I'm like, yeah, but do you know what that and but there is one book later on I'm excited to put out. It's like book 16. Obi creates an LSD bomb because he wants to, use it on enemies.
Okay.
So it'll work in his favor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he winds up dropping one, and before they land in Japan, and before they can even exit the plane, now he's hit with this massive ball of LSD.
Yeah.
He looks up, and all of a sudden the characters are in like anime form.
Oh.
So the whole book's gonna be drawn in like anime style.
Okay, that's cool.
And
That's
so,
cool.
And if you look at the covers I have, the cover for book 4, there's a picture of C.R.I.T, and he's on the ground, hunched over. He's got a bottle of whiskey in his hand, and he's drunk. Because what happened in game, Austin forgot about the cat. He just totally forgot he even had the cat. And so I asked him, I was like, what was C.R.I.T doing that whole time? He's like, oh, he was drunk. That cat was, because he is an alcoholic cat. He loves his rum, he loves his cigars. And so he's like, oh yeah, he was hungover. I didn't use him because he was so hungover. And then in book 5, when you first see C.R.I.T, his hair's all messed up, his eyes are all, and he's like, what did I miss? And even on the covers, I've got a great guy, Robert Nix, who just, he grasps that concept that they're like so crazy and funny. And I pitched this idea to him for book 5. There's a scene in book 5 where I asked the guys just to role play, right? And they had to get into this facility. In the beginning of book 5, I said, all right, you're rolling up to this big armored facility. There's guards everywhere. What do you do? And they were like, we're going to drive the van that we just stole as fast as we can up to the gate, slam the brakes, and when they come out, we're just going to role play it. And I was like, okay, roll to see if that happens. They rolled really well. And so I was like, all right, well, armed guards come out at you because now you're on a highly secured base. What do you do? And they just start pretending like one of them is sick and one of them has been hit by a car and they need medical assistance. And then they act so stupid that the guards are just taken back, like, oh my God, this guy's injured. We need to help him now. Well, he's not injured. And then he starts complaining about a stomach ache, and then he starts screaming, if the cream is sour, do not devour, because they had bad tacos. And I was like, oh my God. And it just like resonated. And so I pitched the idea to the cover artist. I was like, well, and could we have it to where like they're holding, like he's holding him and he's like grabbing his stomach and there's taco wrappers everywhere. And so that's like one of the covers is Boulder down on the ground, like holding his big bloated stomach. And Calibur's like holding him in his arms, like with it, like screaming up in the air, and there's taco wrappers all around him.
That's awesome.
And the building's on fire behind them. And I was like, this is just awesome,
Yeah.
Like,
that's cool. And I love seeing that. Yeah, that level of creativity, that level of shtick. I love all that stuff. All of that is amazing, and I'm so happy that that what you and your buddies came up with like that is taken off. So on that note, where can everybody get your fantastic work at, Chris?
Everything is available on the website, homebrewedcomics.com. I have every issue available for digital purchase or physical purchase. And yeah, actually everything's in stock still. So I just restocked on some of the comic books. We are hitting Kickstarter March 2nd. The link is on the website. You can find us on Instagram. All of our social media links are on the website as well. But on Instagram, which is I have Twitter, I have Facebook, I have Instagram, I have all of it. I'm most active on Instagram, and it's at Homebrewed Comics. Pretty simple. And I even have a link in there for all the other stuff, so you can get on there. And I am announcing this week a DTYS contest for I want to do the villains. I have a villain group called the Masters of Mayhem because it's mom.
Nice.
It's an ongoing joke because one of them has a tattoo of MOM, and it's a mom joke.
Nice.
So, but this book kind of does focus on the villains a bit, and so and it's also the end of chapter 1.
Okay.
So, in D&D terms, they've hit level 5 in this book, and they're about to level up to a new adventurer. They also start a new journey. So 0 through 5 is them really coming to terms with their powers and finding the bigger things that are going on. And if you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons, you always have like your start off like sessions where your characters need to figure out who they are.
Yep.
And so that's like where we're at, is they're really coming into their own skin with these powers and realizing who they are, and they start to work better as a team. And at the end of the book, we're going to see them kind of figure out, this is the path we need to take.
Okay.
And so we close out a lot of stuff. I create more questions, answer some. It's not like Lost, I promise you.
That's great. And I'm sure everybody's looking forward to all that great stuff. So I'm going to leave all of Chris's links in the description section below. Check out his work. Check out C.R.I.T. It's dope. It has a tremendous premise. And why would you not support a whole bunch of friends getting together and making something chef's kiss? It's amazing. So, Chris, I would like to thank you so very much for coming on the show today and sharing all your tremendous work. This will not be the last time we speak, my friend.
Yeah, I'm available anytime, man. I really appreciate you having me on here. I love getting the word out about C.R.I.T. It's everybody asks me about the comic book thing, and I gotta tell you, the best part about it for me is getting to bring my friends to life on paper.
Yeah.
And some of them have kids, and they get to literally show their kids that they're superheroes.
That's amazing.
And one of the coolest stories is Terrell, when we started this, he was an Olympic level wrestler back in college. He got married, he had kids, and when we got together, he was like, oh man, he's like, I don't look like my character in the book. And I know a lot about coaching and stuff like that. So him and I worked together last year. He dropped like 50 pounds.
Nice.
Put on a good amount of muscle, and he's a wrestling coach still. So he's like, now I look like Boulder. And that to me was really cool. Him seeing himself on the page, he was like, man, my kids are like, you don't look like this. And he's like, so he was motivated to do that. And I thought that was really cool. And that's like something that you don't get out of a lot of books. This is like a real story in terms of it being fake, but it's like real people.
Yeah.
And it's had a lot of impact on our lives.
That's good. That's
you don't get a lot. Anyone that plays D&D, there's not many that you get to go, hey, my DM made a comic book about us.
Yeah, exactly.
This is Matt Mercer, and then
exactly a heck of a unique experience. So everybody, this here is Christopher Michael. Definitely follow him on those dope social media platforms, and of course, you already know who I am. I'm Dre the Brute Daniels. Definitely follow me on all my dope social media platforms as well. I'm gonna put them right under my face. They'll be right there. They're not there yet, but they will be there. At TheBrute00 on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and if I feel like being goofy, I'll be on TikTok. Then don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share the video. You all have been fantastic, and we will catch you all next time. Also, if you want to support my channel, check out spinwiz.com or download the SpinWiz app and check out my comic series, Trouble. It was written with a lot of love, and it was definitely my favorite comic series to write. I've also written it in English and in Spanish, so whatever floats your boat, I got it for you. Thanks again, and check it out.